Hello, friends. Hello, women. So excited to be here with you today to talk about boundaries, what I call walls and windows in my 8-week program. Those of you who are following me this week know that I have done something that I've never done before, which is open the doors to the curriculum that I teach in my private mentoring program that I've been doing for many years that gets amazing results. And right now you can access that curriculum on your own just for a couple more days. So doors will be closing here very soon. If you're interested in doing this, click the link because this is time limited offer. I don't know if I will do it again. I'm always willing to try something. So many people have asked me for this, and I have to tell you, I've had more therapists reach out to me in the last several weeks and say, I had one today who said, can I purchase your curriculum to use with my clients? I've had therapists email me and say, can I train with you to learn how to do this? Because I can't move my clients forward. So I share that with you because I want you to know this is the real deal. And even people who work clinically don't always know how to move their clients from point A to point B. And I'm opening the doors for you because it matters. Like now matters, right? It matters that you up-level yourself in extraordinary ways. And as you well know, I often say that transformation is a lifestyle. It's something that we show up to again and again and again. And that dovetails really nicely into what it is that I wanted to talk to you today about, which is about boundaries, what I call walls and windows. And this is week 3 of the training that you will have access to if you decide to say yes to this limited offer right now. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Boundaries are one of the most common problems in relationships. Setting boundaries, negotiating boundaries, collaborating around boundaries, recognizing when a boundary is violated for you, repairing that boundary, finding ways to keep what I call a window open so that you can dip in with curiosity to your partner and invite your partner into you, which is vulnerability, while also maintaining a sense of being personally anchored in yourself. And, part of how boundaries start is by prioritizing your own relationship with yourself. And so in week 1, we talk about getting really clear on who your 2.0 self is, who that highest potential version of yourself is, really anchoring into her every single day with all kinds of different daily practices that I offer to you. We talk about pivoting back into that space over and over and over again through, every moment of the day to strengthen that musculature. In week 2, we're looking at how you stay anchored and then dip in your partner at the same time. So how you get curious about them while staying anchored in yourself. And in week 3, we're looking at boundaries. Boundaries are really important. And there's something that for many women, we've learned to not have boundaries, not have healthy boundaries. Many of my women clients come to me and say, I've been codependent for a lot of my life. And so learning how to untangle yourself from a codependent relationship with your partner. And that starts with you saying yes to you, you recognizing that I need to, whatever it is, have time for myself, invest in myself, do the thing that I've been saying I've been wanting to do for a long time, but haven't done because, and then fill in the blank. And the blank is either an excuse or it's the reason that you are believing that is more true than the reason to get the outcome that you want, right? I'm going to use an example for you because I feel like examples are important. A couple of years ago, my family and I moved down here to Mexico, and people say like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky. We're not lucky. We just decided, and there were so many reasons to not, right? My son was missing his senior year at his high school with all of his friends that he'd gone to school with for a long time. We had just remodeled our house and we're going to sell it. There were all of these things that we could have taken any of those and said, here's the reason why we shouldn't do this now. And those reasons would be legitimate, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when we decided this is the thing that we're going to do as a family, we've decided that we're going to take this step and we're going to move to Mexico. We had to then be aligned with that decision so that we didn't go off course. Does that make sense? And so similarly, when it comes to having boundaries for yourself, it's really important. If you want to have a marriage, a relationship that feels loving, that feels rewarding, that is filled with joy and laughter, if that's what you're going for, then you have to notice what's taking you off course. You have to pay attention. Like, I'm not going to get to Mexico if I say, oh, right, we just invested all of this $100,000+ in remodeling a house. I shouldn't do that. Again, that's fine, but that's not going to get me to Mexico in 6 months, right? And so you have to stay committed and clear on what the thing is that you want. And most women come and work with me because they say, my relationship is not where or how I want my relationship to be right now. Great. So that's where you're going. And then the reasons that you give yourself, now here's a personal boundary violation. Well, I can't do that because he has this problem. She doesn't listen to me. Why bother trying if all of those reasons take you off of your course. That's your own boundary violation because what you want is this thing. And, one of the reasons why this experience is so transformational is because women learn you got to keep your eye on the prize. Your attention and intention stay in a certain place. And then we're gauging, does this belief keep me here or does it take me somewhere else? And as long as it takes me somewhere else, I'm not going to get there. And it's not a bad thing. It's not wrong. It's just that it's not going to take you there. It would have kept us in Denver, which is fine. We had a great life and great friends and a beautiful home there. Fine, right? But it wouldn't have gotten us to where we are now. And so if you need support and help with your boundaries, the boundaries always have to start with yourself. Where are you violating your own boundaries? Where do you say, I want to have this kind of life, but I'm not going to show up and do or say or feel or practice having the emotions that or the beliefs that will get me there, right? That willingness. And again, it's one of the reasons why the success rate for this program that I do is so high, is that women don't generally work with me if they're not really willing for things to change, because they know that this process is one where they are going to be deeply looking at where it is that they are preventing themselves from taking the action, practicing the emotions, expressing the feelings, and creating a narrative that get them to where it is that they want to go. And so boundaries externally always start internally. And that's something that most people are not taught. We're taught, especially as women, to look at boundaries outside of us. Where is this person violating my boundaries? That's not where it starts. It starts with you. Where do you violate your own boundaries? Where do you say you wish you had more time to exercise, but you just don't do it, but you put everybody else before you? Where is it that you say, wow, I've been wanting to do this thing for so long, but then you don't make it a priority, but you make other people's things a priority, and then you feel resentful about it? That's your own boundary violation. There's a spiritual saying that goes, as above, so below. And it's true in your marriage or relationship too. As above, so whatever's happening in your relationship is also what's happening below. Whatever's happening out here. If I'm dissatisfied out here, if I feel like there aren't boundaries out here, guess what's happening in here? Same thing. There's dissatisfaction. There's lack of boundaries in here. As above, so below. And if you don't do this part will not change. What it will feel like is you're wrestling with this part and you're saying, why is this person not doing the thing? And if only they would do whatever. You know why you have this? Because you have this. Because as above, so below. You start shifting this starts changing. That's systems theory. It's just how it goes. And so boundaries with yourself, which means staying true to your commitment. If you're committed to having this up-leveled version of a relationship, it means you have to be willing to show up at that level, which means you have to be willing to commit, and willing to commit through the discomfort of it. Again, to use this example of moving to Mexico, it's hilarious to me, and people are like, "Oh, you're so lucky," because it was really hard and scary. And that commitment to keep showing up, to keep taking the risk. And it sounds weird to say that it's a risk to be your up-leveled self, but it feels risky when you're so used to the 1.0 you, the part of you that is conditioned to not have boundaries, the part of you that's conditioned to be a people pleaser, right? And so we want to default into that space. But really, what will serve us is to do the risky thing and up-level ourselves to get to a place where we're willing to occupy more fully who it is that you want to be. And then practice lining everything up every single day to make that happen. So boundaries start with yourself. They start with how you commit to your emotional health, your physical health, your mental health, what it is that you're saying to yourself over and over and over again. Boundaries start also with noticing when you feel resentful, because resentment is a clue to you that you have allowed someone to violate your boundaries. And as sovereign beings, we get to say yes, please, or no, thank you. And when there's a violation of boundary there, that's my responsibility to recognize I wasn't clear, I didn't say, or whatever the situation was. And if there's a situation where somebody violates my boundary and I did say, that's depending on the situation, that's a whole different thing, right? That means that we're not in any kind of collaborative relationship. And so recognizing that you have authority and power. This process that I walk women through is one where you get to be totally responsible for your life. You get to take total responsibility for it, which is thrilling and also terrifying, because it means whatever's happening, good, bad, in between, it is all yours, right? Which is a great thing, because then if there are parts that aren't working for me, then I get to take 100% accountability and make that change. But again, this is not for everybody, because plenty of people, and I certainly know that I had periods of my life where I wanted to say, well, I can't have this or that or experience this or that because fill in the blank of somebody else usually. And it positioned me as powerless, right? Which is fine if that is where you prefer to live. And I know none of us prefer to live there, but it's what we're conditioned to do. And this 8-week process is available to help condition you out of that, to condition you into using your sovereignty, using your free will, and applying it to what will amplify the goodness in your life, because isn't that why we're here, right? So boundaries start with you creating alignment, creating your yeses and your no thank yous, or not right now, or not yet, learning how to communicate those, being anchored, that's module 2, being grounded in yourself, offering curiosity to your partner around that as well, to create a sense of mutuality, a sense of collaboration in your relationship. And the windows that I talk about, often culturally we talk about how we can throw up walls, right? So a wall is like stay out, stay away. We usually throw up walls in places where we feel tenderness, or we have been hurt, or we have a history in our relationship of feeling attacked or not heard, right? And so that wall will go up, and a wall is a reaction. And whenever we react, we're slipping back into yesterday, last week, last month, which means we're not in the spacious present moment, the generous now. We're not in the possibility of what could happen. And I know that sounds sort of airy-fairy, and it's not, Okay, let me just tell you. Because whenever we react, we're acting again, which means it's coming from, which means it's not coming from, right here, right now. And if I want this interaction with my partner to go differently, I have to be willing to show up in a different way. I have to be willing to do the scary thing, the new thing, the risky thing, and stay deeply committed to myself, deeply committed to my Mexico. Even though people are saying, your son's going to miss prom. Oh, maybe I should listen to that, right? Even though if you're committed to a sense of connection and joy in your relationship, and then you hear this voice inside you that's like, he's not going to listen to you. I don't even know why you bother, right? That pulls you off course. That's your boundary violation. And it also prevents you from opening a window into the present moment with your partner where you could actually have a fresh, new connection, something vital, something alive. That can only happen if I'm willing to dial down my reactivity, which doesn't mean that my partner is right and that I'm wrong. It doesn't mean really anything about yesterday or last year. It just means that I'm willing to have a fresh blank canvas so that something new can happen. The problem is we want something new without committedly showing up in a new space, a fresh space every day. What I hear most often, and when I worked traditionally as a therapist, I'd hear this a lot where, if I was working with one person or the other in a partnership and they'd say, well, I tried to do that thing for like a day or two and it didn't work. So I stopped. Again, using the example of Mexico, I tried to go to Mexico for 2 days, but then this happened and this with our visas, and we couldn't figure out this with the bank and the banking system, so we stopped. No, it never would have happened because there were a million roadblocks that we hit, and we just stayed focused. It's the same with you. You get to stay focused. You get to love yourself enough to stay focused on what it is that you want in your life, because guess what? You might just get it. Imagine that. Imagine if you got it. And then you get to feel like you won the lottery every single day because you wake up and you're like, I did this. I created this. I get to have this. I get to keep practicing this. I get to have the life of transformation over and over and over again, because that's how we continue to evolve and grow and become the highest version of ourselves, which, again, I tend to attract women who are very growth oriented. It's why like 30% of the people who I work with are healers, clinicians, run their own businesses, entrepreneurs. They're doing things. They're constantly growing and doing things, right? Because they don't want to hit a place of a plateau professionally, personally, or relationally. They're like, there's more here. So if any of this wakes you up, and if you've been considering getting in to work with me, I'm being honest when I say this is a one-time deal that I'm doing. I don't know that I'm going to offer this again, because what I love doing is being able to work with people in my 8-week mastery program that I do. That's private mentoring. And I talk to you 2 to 3 times a week. And you're then going to my graduate space. And there's so much that happens there after our 8 weeks together. And it's amazing. But I'm allowing a handful of women into this for a very different ticket price to have access to the curriculum. So you get to have these 8 weeks of trainings, and I'm offering also one live Q&A with me on March 23rd for the women who say yes this week. We have a few more days that the doors are open, and a couple of other really great bonuses that are coming your way, which is awesome for you because it will help to amplify and support the work that you're doing here. And so if your goal has been to get yourself more up-leveled in your relationship, because when you are showing up as your 2.0 self in your relationship, in your marriage, in your family, it has an impact on everything. It just does, right? And so if you've been thinking about it, now's the time. So click the link, read about all the great details. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope that this conversation on boundaries, walls, and windows has been helpful for you, and that the boundaries start with you. And the window that you're opening, right? When you open a window to get curious about your partner, it means you're also being willing to get curious about yourself. You're getting willing to get curious about how it is that you're showing up in the world, and where it is that you're willing to get to know yourself more authentically, and so that you can live in more integrity. That means in alignment with who it is that you want to be. So thank you so much for being here, for taking some time, hanging out in this space. I will be back tomorrow, and I will let you know when we just have a few hours left before the doors close. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, let me know. I appreciate your time. Have a wonderful rest of your day.